Jayaprakash Narayan IAS as a lead introduction, but some of us only know him as IAS officer. As a IAS officer, as a collector to Prakash district, he actually got 2 lakh acres of land which was under-irrigated. He convinced the farmers to take up the irrigation project. And many of us also know him as a reformer, but many of us don't know that he single-handedly got 3 constitutional amendments. So you would wonder how one individual is able to bring so much change. There's one unique capability that Dr. JP has that many of us in India don't have, that is to work across the aisle, work with people that don't agree with him. He doesn't see that people that don't agree with him as his enemies, but he tries to see how to get work done. And it's a very rare quality, and it's an honor that he is with us today. I'm here to talk to you about ways if you want to be in touch with Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan, or if you want to seek his opinion or know about what his stance on multiple things. There are 2 ways to be in touch with him. You can email him if you have a pen and a paper. You can note down his email address. You can email him at drjploksata@gmail.com. Please make a note of it. It's drjploksata@gmail.com. And if you want to get any updates about his opinions, be it on reservations or be it on constitutional amendments, there's a missed call number that we provide. If you can quickly take out your phones and give a missed call to this number, you can get regular updates on his activities. The way to do it is you take the phone and the number is 8688 04 7100. You just give it a call, and your number will be saved in the database, and any updates regarding Dr. GP's activities will be sent to you directly. You want me to repeat the number? It's 8688 04 7100. Thank you so much.
So it is requested between the discussion be a more interactive session. So we'll have Sir speaking very briefly, and then please shoot any questions that you have. Sir's really willing to answer this. Sir, over to you, sir.
Friends, I don't intend to inflict a lecture on you, particularly before lunch. So instead, right away, I would like to start off with some kind of an introduction. Because the theme for today's discussion is decentralization. Obviously, I would like to structure the interaction around that. Is it okay? I'll keep asking questions, and I want you to very freely respond. Don't worry about being right or not right, or how much you know, how much you not know, if it is acceptable or not. Unless we start debating and discussing, we will not move further. Okay? Let me start. How many of you can name the mayor of Hyderabad city? Anybody? Please raise your hand. Mayor of Kolkata? Mayor of Mumbai? Mayor of Chennai? Bangalore? Delhi? Don't worry, you are a very illustrious company. Once I asked Mr. Manmohan Singh this question, he could not name any one of them either. But think of any other country in the world. Think of the mayor of London. Does somebody know? New York? Come on. Pardon? Okay, he was the mayor. Replaced by this year now. But you're right. Bloomberg was the mayor until last year. So, why I'm starting off with this is all over the world, the mayors of big cities are household names in that country. Bloomberg, who was Bloomberg's predecessor? Anybody's an idea? When 9/11 happened, for instance, who was the mayor of New York City? Okay, you guys obviously are very studious and think that anything outside textbooks is not right. But very well-known names. Giuliani was a big name. He was later a Republican presidential candidate, and he actually made waves like who is making waves in Republican presidential elections now? Trump. So he was also the leading candidate at that time. Giuliani. Later, McCain, or take Mexico City, a chap called Lopez. He almost won presidency by half a percentage. He lost the presidency of the country. He was the mayor. Or take the current mayor of Mexico City, Miguel Mancina. She's a presidential candidate right now. She's the current mayor of Mexico City. Another former mayor of Mexico City, Cardina. He almost won the election of the presidency. Or you take London, Boris Johnson. If the current Prime Minister did not win the last election just a few months ago, David Cameron, almost certainly Boris Johnson will be the Conservative Party here. His predecessor from the Labour Party, for instance, Ken Livingstone, he was a very significant figure in the Labour Party. All over the world, mayors of cities are major political figures and household names. In India, none of us know the names of mayors. None of us care, but they actually don't matter. In that sense, it doesn't matter what economic and political system you have chosen. India is an outlier. This is a reflection of the degree of centralization in this country. That even mayors of big cities do not matter is a reflection of how centralized they are. You are all serious students of constitution, law, governance, and politics. One measure of democratization of a society, I would urge you to look at this very closely, is how dispersed authority is. They say in some countries, they have the largest number of final decision-making authorities. The sphere of decision-making may be narrow. It will not be huge. For instance, in Harlem, New York, when Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary, they wanted to move to Harlem, New York after his presidency in 2000. He had to take the approval of the local residents association to establish residence there. Those people must decide whether a former president living in their midst is to their advantage or is a nuisance. Too much of security, too much of other things, or then I think perhaps the prestige gives that address more dignity. It's up to them. But their decision, whatever the decision they made, that will be fine. No further appeal on the subject. That is true dispersion of authority. Whereas in India we have this terrible syndrome, PM, CM, DM. You all understand? DM being district magistrate. 90% of the state power in India is in the hands of these three functionaries. And therefore this rat race to be one of these three. Many of you will tomorrow appear for the civil services, I'm sure, because you want to be part of the DM structure. And almost every legislator, his dream or her dream is to become the chief minister. We don't even know why they want to be chief ministers. But the rat race for that. Why? Because even the transfer of a teacher in a government school is decided by the chief minister of Telangana or chief minister of Andhra Pradesh. Transfer of a teacher, that file comes to the chief minister in these two states. To their disgrace. That's the degree of centralization. So our own complete apathy about mayors is a good example of centralization. Even in our minds, these institutions don't matter. Okay, we're all students of Constitution. Can anybody tell me the length of American Constitution? How many words? Make a guess. Pardon? 4,400 words. I have to verify whether the current constitution with those 15 or whatever amendments is a little longer, I'm not certain. But 4,400 words for sure is a number at least for one state. What are the amendments in relation to local governments in India? Anybody has an idea? 73rd and 74. Do you have an idea of how long the 73rd Amendment is and how long the 74th Amendment is? Give me a rough word count. I'm sure you wouldn't have counted, but I just want to give you another perspective, just to make it a little more interesting, that's all. So, could you give me some number? Anybody? Come on, you make a guess. I'm sure your professors are not going to test you on this. Come on. 73rd Amendment is 3,658 words. 74th is 4,098 words. Together more than 7,700 words. Larger than American Constitution. And yet, none of us think that the functionaries stated by these amendments are of any consequence, and therefore we don't remember any mayor, any municipal chairman, any sarpanch, any Jilla Parishad chambers. What a paradox, you know, that the length, the verbosity of law, the fundamental law of the land, and the reality of Indian polity, and contrast. Why? Can anybody tell me? In this specific context of local governments, why? If you ask people in power, they say, look, we did a fantastic thing, we talked about this so-called amendments to the Constitution, so lengthy, so beautiful, so committed, so blah, blah, blah. And yet, we see the contrast. Why? Anybody? Hello, I want participation. I have no clue whether something is entering your minds or not. Please. Are you too hungry? Then come on, just make a guess. Just think. There's nothing right or wrong. We have to explore together. Or else I have to now at random ask you. The choice is yours. I'm prepared to stand here silent. Who?
Actual power rests with the.
Just raise your hand so that I know where you are. Okay, please go.
Actual power rests with the local authority like mayor or someone. All the decision is done by the bureaucrats or politicians higher up like the state.
So what did these 4,000 plus words of 74th Amendment dealing with municipalities, for instance, do?
It is the illusion that there is power.
It's an illusion of power. We created monstrosities, overstructured, underpowered local governments. Nowhere in the world is the local government structure so rigidly defined by a centralized constitution with so little real power. Everywhere in the world, how exactly is structured local government is a local provincial decision. If the constitution touched upon that, essentially they would talk about empowering these institutions, period. Whereas we talked in detail about how a sarpanch should be elected, a municipal chairman should be elected, some other joker should be elected, or a mandal president, or a Zilla president, etc., whoever it is, and a whole lot of things, lots of LPAs. But the essence of it, what is it that they're supposed to be doing? 243G in respect of local governments, rural, and I think 243W, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong about the particular alphabet, doesn't matter, in respect of urban local governments. Their confusion personified. Very vague. If the state legislature so decides, they may like to transfer some powers by law to make them institutions of self-government, blah, 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 whatever that means. In fact, this is an important lesson for all of us in making laws. Right to Education Act is a classic example. How many of you read Right to Education Act? Please raise your hands. A little less hesitant, little, okay. How many of you think it's a good thing? Now you're a little worried. Right? It's a good thing. Go on. How? Use the microphone if you can.
It forces private school to make reservations for economically backward classes, thus creating more seats in schools, and especially in urban areas where there are no infrastructure available to create new government schools and cover schools.
Okay. So it's a good thing. All Go on.
So when they create seats in the private schools for the economic backward classes, provisionally only the elementary education is up till 8th. So essentially what a basic education student take would be up till 10th. So when you're giving them only up till 8th, and then essentially the provisional is 8th, and then if you make them, there's a requirement for them to be transferred to another school, it creates a lot of problems because the private schools essentially usually conform to a CBSE and ICSE board system. So from there, then transferring again to another state board would probably be problematic.
Anybody with any perspective on that? Though we're digressing, it's important for you to understand that good intentions versus outcomes. In lawmaking itself, forget implementation itself, in lawmaking itself, how much of a gulf there could be at times, unless we understand that we can't be serious students of law or practitioners of law. So, any other perspective? Please.
I'm actually not very sure about right to education.
Okay.
Because there are a few disagreements that I have with the act. For example, so there is an exclusive idea of education that it suggests, in the sense that we have diversity of scripts, cultural tradition, a way of educating and blending knowledge, and right to education comes as a monolithic system. Second objection that I have with right to education is, because it's not really, the design of it. So for example, it has created this committee where 75% members of the committee would comprise the parents of the students. Right? Now, the idea is that I'm not sure how much ground level research is maintained in creating this sort of a provision where we were dealing with constituencies where a lot of parents were actually wage earners, daily wage earners. Right? There are two concerns with respect to this provision. One was that they themselves are not very sure about the sort of decision making that is required. Second was attending this sort of consultation might actually sacrifice their daily wage. Now, I'm not saying that they should not be participant in the process of education. All I'm saying is that
So accountability structures are not designed in a manner that guarantees better outcomes in a broad sense. Well made point. Let me give you a snapshot. I'm digressing if I don't want to take this too far. But there's a link between that and decentralization too, if I bring it back to that. Some years ago I was traveling in California on a road called Homestead Road. In America almost every other road is a Homestead Road. So it doesn't matter what road it is. And my friends who were escorting me, they told me, if I recall, I think I was traveling from east to west in San Jose area. They told me that the city to the north of that road is Sunnyvale. And to the south of that road is a city called Cupertino. Anybody heard of Cupertino? That's the city where the Google headquarters is located, among other things. But it's all the hub of the technology area where the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, traveled recently and so on and so forth. And they told me that property values in Cupertino, to the south of the road, are 50 to 60% higher than the north of the road. Now visually, when you just look at it, there seems to be no difference at all. Physical infrastructure-wise, the greenery or the roads or other things. I couldn't decide anything. I said, I am not able to get anything significant. Is there a huge gap in infrastructure? They said no. Then the next question I asked was, are there mixed communities in, let's say, Sunnyvale? Because no, you like it or not, even the racist propensities and the crime in certain ghettos. If a significant number of African Americans move into a certain area, the property values sometimes seem to go down. So it's possible that the mix of the population is such that there is no demand for that area. They said no. Demographically, again, gravity. And I asked them, how come there is so much difference in land value? There's only one reason. The school district board in Cupertino functions very well. It's one of the best in California and the United States. A district board is one where the elected committee, elected by the parents, they manage the school board, and therefore the school outcomes largely depend on the quality of functioning of the decentralized elected authority. And a similar board exists in Sunnyvale and in every city and county in the United States. Under American law, unless you are a local taxpayer, you cannot send your kids to the local public schools free of cost. So if you want to send your kid to Cupertino schools, you must be a resident of Cupertino. And therefore, people now move into that area because they are sure that their kids will get decent school. Private education is pretty expensive. And if public education is private education, doesn't make any sense because they're already paying taxes. So why pay another $30,000 per year towards a child's fee? Therefore, the demand has now shot up for properties there. And price, as you all know, is a function of demand and supply. Supply cannot be increased dramatically because development requirements, environment requirements, and all kinds of things, they limit the supply of houses. The price is shot up. Look at the linkages now. The empowerment of a community in improving the quality of education, their capacity to deliver that outcome. As a result, the demand that has shot up in terms of the value of properties, to own the properties, and therefore the prices that have shot up. And each person in Cupertino is now wealthier with the same property. When you talk of decentralization, don't look at it as a very legal, technical stuff. It's about life. How do you make lives better? Where is the greatest opportunity to make lives better, more wealthy, more prosperous, and get more productive outcomes? Where should the decision making be? That is the central question in all this. When I advocate local governance and empowering local governance, many people come and tell me. And the legislator came up to me and told me, sir, whatever you say is absolutely right in general, but this one thing, your passion for local governments, please rethink. In panchayat elections, in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, these two Telugu-speaking states, for instance, there are panchayats where, village panchayats, where it costs about 3 to 4 crores to get elected as a sarpanch. Not every panchayat, obviously. There is one panchayat, a former governor of a state, a major state, he told me, one panchayat called, I think it's Kanamuru near Vijayawada, where it cost 12 crore rupees for a panchayat. So they keep telling me even now, ministers, many major political figures, your fascination for local governments is all wonderful. But this is what is really happening. These fellows are buying the votes, it's all corrupt, it's all depraved. A corporator in Hyderabad city, for instance, typically the cost of election will be 2 crore rupees. And obviously you cannot expect them to deliver tomorrow. Therefore, why are you so romantic about local governments? My answer is always the same. It's not because I believe local governments are more model. I don't expect Gandhis to be there. But I expect people to wake up and fight and shout and make a difference to their lives. And therefore, I would much rather prefer a corrupt local government to an honest centralized government. Because the corruption of the local government can be contained by the people. The locally elected fellow, appointed fellow, is not so much bigger than the citizens there. You always start shouting and hollering, where is my water supply, where is my road, where is garbage disposal, why is there no street lighting, why is the traffic like this? You all keep shouting. But we have neither the capacity nor the understanding to keep shouting or making an impact. And the big decisions divorce from our day-to-day lives. By the very nature of things, no matter how good you are, how competent you are, you simply cannot deliver at a distance. I would much rather have a locally managed administration by useless fellows and incompetent buffoons and rogues than a highly distant and centralized administration by extremely intelligent ideologues and honest despots. It doesn't matter. The argument is not that these fellows are nice and those fellows are bad. You know, I had this debate in 1988. None of you was born at the time, I'm sure. Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister and there was a collector's workshop. I was one of the district magistrates here in Hyderabad in Rajendra. And I deliberately chose the topic of delegation of power, decentralization. Prime Minister and Chidambaram and Manishankar Iyer and I think SAARCLaw, they all walked in at about 7 p.m. or so. They were tired, exhausted. From morning they were traveling from Delhi to somewhere in Guwahati and then there in this place. So I could see the Prime Minister was very tired. The first sentence I uttered was, Mr. Prime Minister, a district in India is larger than half the nations of the world. That is true. An average district in India is larger than 80 nations in the world in terms of population. Suddenly, his eyes widened and I think his fatigue disappeared, and then there was an animated discussion. When I very strongly argued for empowered local governments, and I actually argued for a third-tier government, not merely a municipality or a panchayat. I wanted a district government. He said, no, it won't work. Actually, Mr. Prime Minister, this is exactly the argument that the British rulers advanced during the freedom struggle. I don't have to answer this. Your own esteemed grandfather and many of his colleagues answered this very evening. What did they say? They said, good government is no substitute to self-government. The British at least had the gumption to say, look, we are giving good government. Why are you taking a risk? Because they were giving a reasonably competent good government. Our leader said, it's none of your business. We'll take care of our lives. Whereas today, the fight is not between a centralized good government and localized, potentially bad government. It is a fight between a messy, disgraceful, ineffective, dysfunctional, centralized administration and a potentially liberating local government that could unleash the energies of all the people. So where's the contest? When we said no to actual good government, when it is a centralized bad government, why are we even asking questions about this? I told him then, I keep reminding people all over the country now, you go to any part of the country, go to any government office, try and get anything done. I don't impose any condition. I told the Prime Minister then, and I tell you the same thing. No conditions at all, anything. You can come on your plane, go to any state, go to any city, go to any place, go to any office, ask for anything. But only one condition in case of the Prime Minister. Everyone that condition is not necessary. Please go incognito, either burqa or do something so that they don't know you're the Prime Minister together. That's all I need. Or like the old-fashioned kings and emperors, when you have heavy makeup and all kinds of things, so that they don't know, they can't recognize you. You will know and you will face the indignity, the humiliation, the harassment, the corruption, the pain, the anguish of every citizen every day in this country. And yet the arrogance that we can govern from Delhi or Hyderabad or Bengaluru or some other place, and we can make a difference, I don't understand. It's completely disproved by facts. You're on written experience. You're all living in this lovely hostel, this campus here. But go back to your own towns. You all come from, most of you from relatively comfortable families, but go back to your own towns and ask your parents what happens when small things are done. Get water supply to the house, or electricity connection, or street lighting, or garbage collections, or anything else. Just figure out. Or you drive in Hyderabad. Those of you who are driving license one day, hire a car. You drive in Hyderabad city. Any time of the day, any day of the week, I don't mind, just try. We have to look at our institutions with great care, for our sake, not for romanticism. The 73rd, 74th Amendments, they bungled so badly and so angry because priceless opportunity is squandered. Enormous political capital invested for no purpose at all. Some morons designed a third-rate structure which ultimately failed. Occasionally we keep talking about the hundreds of thousands of people elected, many women being about all. Bad production. Good. We have the weakest local governments among all significant countries on earth. And then we have a self-fulfilling prophecy. We say, look, it's not working, and therefore. Okay? And the tragedy is, this is not something that we did not have earlier. If, for instance, we are trying something new, we fail, I can understand. We have tried this spectacularly well in this country for millennia. Anybody heard of Dictatorial republics? You guys don't want to read history. All right. You remember vaguely something called Pataliputra? All right. The Mauryan Empire, first the Nandas and the Mauryan. All right. A fellow called Megasthenes, he wrote glowingly about the Pataliputra's local governance, how the city was governed. That was 4th century BC. Remember, Alexander's invasion. Which year was that? Just to check. Which year did Alexander invade India? Anybody? No marks added or don't just make a guess. I just want to see your sense of where you are.
I think it's around 328 BC.
326, you're right. 326 BC. 323, in fact, much of our history, it is the dating of history is based on that one thing, because otherwise we have no sense of time. In our country, we simply say the 15th year of the reign of so and so king, 24th year, who the hell knows which year it was, how do we relate to that? Whereas that date is clearly fixed, everybody knows. Globally it is known. Therefore, we go forward and backward, and that is actually the basis for many of our historians to figure out when what happened. So 326 BC was a very important year for us. Around that time, Megasthenes came into glowing about that. Has anybody heard of a place called Uttaramelur? Anybody? Go on, mention.
I think it's the one is near Mysore, right?
One area of?
I think it's near Mysore, I'm not sure.
It's in Tamil Nadu. Something like 926 AD, during the Chola era, a chap called, I think, Aparantaka Chola, right? Aparantaka Chola was, I think, the chap who was a king. There's a detailed inscription as to how that village should be governed, how the elections are held, who is eligible to contest, and who is ineligible for what reasons. Including, if you are earlier holding office in that village, if you did not render accounts, then you are not eligible. If at any time there was more than certificate of a kind, they mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you committed any of these things or if you are charged with these things, then you are not eligible. Then what do you do? How do you elect? After being elected, what do you do? How do you do? Detailed instruction. This is part of our nation, our culture, even before we were a nation. And take British time. The year 1924 was a very important year in this context. Can anybody tell me why? Why is 1924 important in India in the context of municipalities and cities, etc.? Anybody? Four of our tallest leaders became mayors in 1924 municipal elections. C.R. Das, anybody have an idea? Chittaranjan Das, Desikantu Chittaranjan Das, mayor of which city? Come on, not a difficult guess. Kolkata. Jawaharlal Nehru, mayor of which city? Allahabad. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, mayor of the city? Ahmedabad. Babu Rajendra Prasad, mayor of the city? Pataliputra, Patna. Four of our tallest leaders were mayors in that year. If you go back to what they have done during that time, what they worried about the water supply, the drainage, the sewerage, the stormwater, the street lighting, the garbage. That's what they do. In 1924, when C.R. Das became the mayor, the governor of Bengal was a chap called Knighton. So Das called on him. As a matter of courtesy, I was elected to the great city. Remember, 1924 until 1923, Calcutta was the capital of Imperial India. It then moved to Delhi in 23. The decision was taken in 1911 by Curzon, but the capital had to be built. So 12 years later, the capital, the seat of government actually moved. So Lighton was the governor of Bengal. And Das called on the governor. Das was already a major national figure by that time. So the governor was very respectful. And he said, Mr. Das, congratulations on opportunities. He said, anything I can do to help you? He said, Mr. Governor, I have one request. He said, what? He said, the people of Kolkata elected me and my council to serve them. I want to be able to choose my own commissioner. Chief Executive Officer was called, as Municipal Commissioner, as we say now, for instance. I want to pick up my own commissioner. That was an unheard of request. Because all the senior positions in government were the ICS monopoly. And Kolkata was the biggest city of the empire, the jewel of the empire. It was unthinkable that the city commissioner would be chosen by the city locally elected government by these brown fellows. It was an audacious request. But C.R. Das was a big man. And the governor, he thought for a moment and he thought if I said no, it would be inappropriate. Anyway, these blokes can't do much. Let me see. So he said, Mr. Das, I will give you any ICS officer of your choice. He just named him and him. It was only men, unfortunately, in those days, ICS. I don't think there was a single lady at the time in ICS. Das said, no, I don't require ICS fellows. I will choose a person of my choice, not from your government, from a bureaucracy, but somebody from Kolkata, in whom we have confidence. And the governor was pretty disturbed. But because it had already gone this far, he could not say no. He was certain that this experiment will fail. He said, Mr. Das, all right, go ahead. Pick up your own chief executive officer. Das picked up a 27-year-old young man. That young man did a great job in Kolkata city. For 9 months he was commissioner. He was highly respected by the majority and the minority both in the council, by the British government officials, by the public. And then he was arrested, not because he squandered some money. I'm actually scared to repeat the story publicly, oftentimes because the lawyers of the world, they may take the wrong message from this. So, not because he squandered money, but because he participated in freedom struggle and the British government was unhappy with that commission. He was arrested. He was put in Alipur jail in Kolkata. Das again went to the governor right. He said, look, you allowed me to pick up the commissioner of my choice. And I picked up. And he did a great job. There's not one blemish, not one complaint, and not one allegation in terms of his discharge of public duties as Kolkata Municipal Commissioner. You arrested him for other extraneous reasons, I don't care what, that's a different fight. But I want him to continue as commissioner. The British government gave an extraordinary order. It is still there in the archives. They said this gentleman will continue to be the chief executive officer of Kolkata Municipal Corporation while he is in jail. And the file shall be circulated to him. And his orders will be implemented as if these are the orders of a commissioner on the job. This practice continued in Alipur jail until this young man was shifted to Mandalay jail. Obviously Mandalay is in Burma, today's Burma. There's no way you could have seen the file from Burma. But this practice actually continued for some months. Today there is not even a single weekend municipality in the country where the government allows the elected council to choose their own chief executive or even some other function. In fact, we discussed the mayors, our lack of awareness of who the mayors are. The only mayor, though the designation is different, that we all know of is Arvind Kejriwal. Because Delhi Chief Minister is a misnomer. Essentially, Delhi government is a local government. What a well-functioning, reasonably empowered municipality should be doing is what Delhi government is allowed to do. And see the electricity. Who is elected, who is not, doesn't matter. But see the public involvement. See the excitement. And see the public awareness. If you really empower a local government leader, see what happens. And if you are Dixit earlier, or Kejriwal now, or somebody else tomorrow, who in 24 became the municipal commissioner and then was jailed, went on to become the mayor in 1929 of Kolkata city. Then in 1938, he was elected as the president of the All India Congress Committee. He was re-elected the next year against Gandhiji's wishes. Then he left the country and founded Azad Hind Fauj. And even today, in 2015, we are discussing whether he was killed or he died or what happened to him. The impact that young man, 27 at the time, that he made on this country, it all started with that city. As I said, I am terrified to repeat this story in public too often because all these those may take the wrong message. Just like Subhash Babu, we also have the right to see the files and exercise the functions of the chief minister or some other minister while being in jail. But that was the history of local governments. There is a precipitous decline. There is no way you're going to improve India without power being transferred to people who actually have stakes. This is not about romanticism. This is not about Mahatma Gandhi believing that India should be like so many thousand republics. Obviously you require the state, obviously you require the unit government, obviously you require various states, economies of scale, certain decision-making of certain kind. You can't really make those decisions at the local level. It's self-evident. But whatever can be decided locally, that's called the principle of subsidiarity. That means the locus of power should be as close to you as a citizen as possible. Your family is the nucleus. For your life, the most important organism, apart from you yourself as a human being, as an individual, is your family. Where the family cannot decide, a community of stakeholders who have collected common stakes. It may be the school board there. It may be a residence welfare association somewhere. It may be something else somewhere else. But sometimes you cannot clearly define a community of stakeholders. Everybody may have stake a road. I cannot say only these 100 people do this. School, I can say only these parents who send their kids to school. They are a very well-defined group, mostly self-selected. But some other common amenities you cannot really define that way. Then you have to go to some other organism, a local government of some form, and then a bigger local government for economies of scale. When things can no longer be handled locally, then the state. When they can no longer be handled in the state, then the federal government. That's why some of us, we hate to use the expression central government. Have you realized in the Constitution of India there is no expression called central government? Have you found anywhere in the Constitution central government, the expression central government? There is one place I'll mention to you later. It's a terrible, terrible thing. I cautioned them against that. One of the amendments that I was instrumental in getting incorporated in the Constitution. I told the Prime Minister, I told the government in advance, we are now knowledge-proof governments. We are incapable of learning and understanding and thinking. So things happen mechanically and routinely. But this decentralization is not really about the municipalities and the panchayats. As I said, it's about any stakeholders. A school board. And let me give you one example of what can happen. There's a place called Alandur in Tamil Nadu. Anybody knows? Anybody from Tamil Nadu, Chennai? Nobody from Chennai? Do you have some idea of Alandur? Outskirts of Chennai. Now I think part of Chennai Municipal Corporation or metropolitan area or something. It was earlier a municipality not too long ago. Some 80,000 population. There's a chap, I never even met him. I don't even know who he is. Some Bharati. He became the municipal chairman. Obviously an inspired person, a good leader. He felt that sewerage was an important thing in that city, in that town. Because there was no sewerage system. And we had your toilets, and then you had septic tanks. And in India, most septic tanks are not septic tanks really. There's no proper digestion of the whole thing. And therefore, they simply overflow, it goes into drains and gutters. Then they all get filled up, and you make enough noise, some will fill after some months of that, the whole thing getting into gutters comes, and the third-rate machines and third-rate tankers, they try to pump it into the tankers. It's all smelly, stinky, the whole area. We all think, no, so guess what, that we are living in this place and shut our eyes, shut our nose to the extent possible and take another road and somehow survive. And then the whole sewage, raw sewage, is carried in the tanker which is largely leaking and the road is getting messy and they take it outskirts of the town. And then there is a low-lying area and they dump it there. This is typical sewage management of India. I could see many of you are horrified, but this is what is happening in every single town of India. There is no exception. So he felt that this is something that we should address. Because the consequences, you know, apart from unhygienic life and undignified life and the sting, the lack of health and sanitation, the consequences we all understand. So he inspired the people locally and he mobilized 8 crore rupees towards the future storage connection charges. It's not even gratis. Only thing is he said, pay in advance so that you build the system so that you can get this resolution automatically. He inspired them. They charge X amount for the residences, Y amount for businesses. Enough people came forward, so 8 crores was collected. Because they were the first movers, the banks, institutions, some international funding, all loans. Only 3% or so was any kind of subsidy. Everything was only borrowed loans, but concessional loans. So they gave all the funding. He executed that. Within 2 years, they completed a 38 crore program. I think some 600 kilometers are main source and some 1500 kilometers are more of the secondary sources. But a proper sewage system was built. Forget everything else. See the consequences to this small little harm. The property values, which were about 1,000 or 2,000 rupees 2 years before, shot up to 15,000 rupees or so within 2 years' time. You have not done some favor to somebody else. It is the people who did favors to themselves. And there is a direct and immediate benefit to them as individuals and families, apart from the community getting the benefit overall. And of course, as is our own, what did Chennai Municipal Corporation do? It is a nice place. Earlier we wouldn't touch with the barge pole, now they've improved. Therefore, they made it part of the Chennai Corporation. Centralized. Therefore, my conception of decentralization is not Chennai Corporation. As decentralized as is humanly possible. A municipal ward, or some other locus of power, and transfer resources, transfer authority, make them accountable, and you will see India getting transformed dramatically. You will not see Naxalites then. Because you can throw a challenge to them, a moral challenge, a real challenge, and say, look, here is an opportunity. You can make a difference to your village or town. Why are you doing these stupid things and killing yourself and killing others? Come, change it if you have the gumption. Because there is a true opportunity, they can actually come and change. In every village, every ward, every town, every municipality, your own parents, just think of them. They are very enlightened citizens, they have a lot of experience, but outside of their home and their profession, are they allowed to do something to improve the garbage clearance or the streets or the sewerage or the drainage? No, they have to go on back with a petition, like anybody else. There are so many people who have enormous expertise and experience in managing these things. If only you create institutional mechanisms to involve them. Make them decision makers, as locally as possible. Just imagine what would happen. Everything would dramatically change. The people who are not rabble rousers, who are complaining all the time, would become the problem solvers. They are partners. They are decision makers. They are not protesters. I'm sure in your debates and discussions, you discuss a lot about protests in India, how subalterns have to fight and fight back and blah, 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 all those things. But we are a democracy. We are citizens. There is no subaltern in democracy if you are a true democracy. Every citizen has to play a role and must be enabled to play a role. And you certainly cannot make a decision if Delhi is the center of the universe. And that's why this principle must extend to many other things. Cooperatives. A good example. School boards. And other things. I'm one of those inspired by Verghese Kurian's example for milk cooperatives. I studied them 36, 37 years ago. He was one of my mentors in life. So all my life I fought for the liberation of cooperatives in the clutches of governments. And therefore, it was my privilege to be able to get the 97th Amendment of the Constitution, whose only purpose was to regulate cooperatives in the clutches of government. But again, see the way the government did it. It was not terrible, luckily, but it was inelegant and ugly. I appealed to them, look, 19(1)(c) already gives the right to form what? 19(1)(c). Anybody? Associations or unions, right? In any sensible country, if you understand constitution and liberty, forming a cooperative is nothing but forming an association. But we are anything but sensible, including our judiciary. We are a bunch of idiots. And judiciary also oftentimes said a cooperative is a government's creature. And therefore, it led to a lot of confusion in the country. Time and again, cooperatives are suddenly liquidated, disbanded, removed, superseded. Middle of the night, there's a knock, and some fellow comes and takes over. So in 1995, when I had an opportunity, then Andhra Pradesh, I was chiefly instrumental in getting what is called the MAX Act, Youth-Related Cooperative System Act in place, the first of its kind in India. Several states later followed suit. Then, when I had the opportunity at the national level, I pushed for a constitutional amendment in 2005. So I agreed with them, just add one more word. All you require is a comma and a word. Associations, comma, cooperatives, and unions. Nothing more is or under or whatever is I don't remember now, it's under or. Nothing more, because the protection of 19(1)(c) automatically applies. So 19(4) is the only mechanism by which you can make a law to restrict that liberty. That's the constitutional structure. And of course, our fellows have to write something very verbose and useless. They said if only one word is added, then it's not appealing to us, it's not sexy. We have to write a whole chapter. Don't write a chapter. So they said a chapter. And in that chapter, to their eternal discredit, the expression central government finds place as part of that amendment. I plead guilty, and the architect amendment, but not that part, not in that form. There's another terrible thing, though it's not directly with local government issues, so that you understand how we mess up things. We all know the hierarchy of the laws. The Constitution is the fundamental law. Then the law. Within the laws, it's a concurrent subject of federal union law, the state law, blah, blah. Then you have rules, subordinate legislation under the law. Then you have executive orders. Then you have decisions. Unless the hierarchy is followed, unless the decision is in consonance with the executive order, that's not in consonance with the rule, that's in consonance with the law, that with the Constitution, the whole edifice falls. It's the first thing that you all have to learn, right? I presume you all remember that. And therefore, the Constitution would never say, subject to so-and-so law. It is silly. Sometimes, as a saving provision, they may say the laws related to the subject which already exists, they continue to prevail as some such thing. But to the shame of these fellows, they actually mentioned certain laws like Banking Regulation Act. They wanted to say, subject to provisions of the law in relation to regulation of banking institutions, great cooperatives must be conforming to these provisions. They were so idiotic, they actually said Banking Regulation Act. But that is to say how much we mess up things. It's not always evil intentions. It's not always political opposition. It's not always because you have to fight a great battle on the streets to change the country. It is because we have taken leave of common sense. The elementary understanding of what Constitution and the law are about, what human institutions are about, how to get the best outcomes, to make our lives better, how to decentralize, how to give enough flexibility. We have forgotten. I wanted to give to Varghese Kurian this 97th Amendment as a gift. I started this process way back 25 years ago. 2005 was a critical year. I could take it far. And the amendment was introduced in Parliament. It took another 7 years, 2009, I think, or 2012, December 31st, I think. The President finally signed the Constitutional Amendment. And to my great regret, Korean passed away a few months before that. Otherwise, I wanted to give him the last years of his life, last months of his life, a truly happy gift. But 97 is essentially the principle I was fighting for is localization of power. The same principle, decentralization. So look at decentralization as a much larger thing than local governments as we traditionally understand. Let me conclude before you have any more questions to raise. As I said, it's not a romantic issue. It is about convergence of taxes and services. If people understand this is my money, with this money, this can happen, then their whole approach to public administration changes. Today, because they feel nothing is coming to them anyway, 2 rupees rice, free electricity, loan waiver, and 100 other freebies. Grinders, mixers, 10 grams of gold, or 5 grams of gold, you name it. Each state, each politician is innovating in a remarkable way to convert this country into some kind of a freebie ranch. At the cost of what the government ought to be doing with our tax money. No matter how much you tell the people that, look, this kind of unhealthy subsidies, consumption subsidies are hurting us, we're not getting what we actually should be getting. For the poor person there, it's not an appealing argument because he sees, she sees something that is different. I am getting rice at 0 price. Power which is free to my farms or something else. Now this clever fellow is saying, you must take it out. I don't know what I get in place of that. Therefore, I will hold on to that. But supposing, like in a family, you say, this is your money. You can now decide whether you want this free rice or free power or a better road, a better garbage clearance or good schooling or something else. And you figure out. Like in a family, they get debate. What do we do with this money? Should I do this or this or this? Because it's a finite amount of money. The needs and desires are infinite. That is the task of governance. If power is localized, then they understand what is possible, what's not possible, and they figure out better. Some people may still say, I want free rice. Of course not. Some other people will say, look, I do something different and actually improve the life. And maybe when we see them after 2 or 3 years, we say, look, their property was 10 times, so they're still languishing like this. They have no dirt and filth and ill health now, but we are suffering ill health. Therefore, why not eliminate them? That's how a nation progresses. Taxes and services. The second is authority with accountability. If you use authority with accountability. In India, in very few places is authority used with accountability. Nobody knows who is responsible for what. Everybody is in any way for non-performance. Everybody is excused why he is not able to deliver. But we the people always end up suffering. But if you know clearly who has the authority and who has the responsibility, and unless they come together, you cannot get governance. Even this decrepit government does deliver some things very well. And those things are selective things. Where our authority is used with accountability, we actually perform reasonably well. A disaster relief, election management, VIP visits, which some people will call another disaster. In all these, the government missionary functions remarkably well. Why? Because these are the few select areas where authority is completely fused with accountability. Same fellows. You not brought blue blood, you not brought Americans or Chinese or Japanese. The same Indians, same corrupt, castrated, dysfunctional, useless fellows, they suddenly perform remarkably well because we have fused authority with accountability. And vote with public good. Today people seek to vote. Money for vote. Money, liquor, caste or other some emotional purchase, region, Andhra, Telangana, something else, because there is no other value for the vote. Once you see that the vote has consequences, very definite consequences, directly impacting your life, then slowly but steadily, it cannot happen overnight, dramatically. Slowly but steadily, people mature enough to realize that what's more important for me is my child's schooling. I don't care whether the teacher belongs to this caste or that caste. I care very much whether my daughter is getting good quality schooling. I don't care whether the surgeon is from this caste or that religion, but I care very much whether the surgeon can actually save my child's life. Because there is a bigger goal. It's actually a greater sense of selfishness, enlightened self-interest. That makes them decide a little more sensibly. So democracy will slowly mature, and that's why people say local governments are schools for democracy. By not doing it rightly, honestly, and well, we messed up and we lost incredible opportunity for 65 years. It's terrible, it's heartrending, but it's never too late. If you don't do it even now, and well, and sensibly, no matter what we do, my whole life has been about reform in the country. I've been privileged to get about 13 or 14 major reforms in place in the country, most of them quiet, like the 1997 Amendment. One of them is the 99th Amendment about the National Judicial Appointments Commission. For 10, 12 years I worked very hard to make it happen. But all these things are important, but they are insignificant. The only thing that will actually transform this country, deliver us out of this morass, unleash our energies, give an opportunity to every single child in this country, fulfill our potential, and eliminate suffering, is as much empowerment as possible in a responsible manner, in an accountable manner for the communities and the people, as locally as is humanly feasible. Then, within a decade, you will see a true revolution happening. And that's why when your institution asked me to discuss this, I was excited, because I truly and passionately believe God appears before me and says, I don't know if there's a God. My philosophy of dealing with God is one of mutual non-interference. But if there is indeed God, if God appears and says, look, you are asking for too much and fighting for too long, tell me one thing I'll give you, I would say, please give us genuine local empowerment. The rest of it will take it. We'll figure out. Thank you. And if there is time, I'm ready to take some questions. Otherwise, we can take it informal session with a normal structure. The floor is yours. Thank you.
On behalf of the Public Policy Group, we thank Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan for taking out this time and coming down to campus. Thank you, sir. It was an interesting experience for all of us. And we also would like to thank the Vice Chancellor, Register, Thanda ma'am, and Star Chancellor for helping us organize this talk and coordinate. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll soon have a lecture in the next 2 weeks. This will be by Ushar Ramnath, and we'll just let you know. And if anyone has any thoughts or any questions that you have, please just stay back. We'll have an informal discussion with Sir. Thank you.